And we are live. My name is Monica Eriksson and I am GWP's Senior Communication Specialist. Welcome to our conversation to celebrate International Youth Day. Today's topic is youth engagement in the water sector, moving from advocate to influencer. So with me today, I have Rianna Gonzales and Paseka Lesolang. Welcome to you guys. Hi.
Hello, Monica.
Hi, Monica.
Hi, and welcome to our Facebook audience. If you have any comments or questions to Rianna or Paseka, please post them in the comments field and we will address them after the conversation. And just to briefly introduce our speakers. So Paseka is GWP's Southern Africa Youth Coordinator. He is a recognized multinational award-winning innovator and a high-impact entrepreneur. And Rianna is GWP's Youth Engagement Specialist. And originally from the Caribbean, she has been working as a youth advocate for over 10 years. So let's get infused with the good vibes. The floor is yours. So over to you, Rianna.
Hi, thank you so much, Monica, for that introduction, and welcome to all our Facebook viewers. And thank you for joining us today. Not only is today International Youth Day, but it's a special day for me as well, because it is my 1-year anniversary for joining GWP, and it has been a great experience thus far. So before we start, Paseka, thank you again for joining us. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and, you know, what's about you, your process, your experience in moving from an advocate to an influencer.
Thank you very much for having me here. I must say congratulations, Rianna, on your anniversary. It just goes to show that GWP is taking good care of you. Hey, you still there? Impressive. A little bit about me. I have a commerce background and I've always appreciated the value of water, especially because I live in one of the 30th driest countries in the world within the SADC region. And it's actually predicted that by 2025, our water consumption might exceed availability of supply. So my contribution to the preservation of water actually started haphazardly. I'd like to share a short story of how it all began. So once upon a time, I was seated in my grandmother's house in a township called Garangua here in Pretoria. And I heard this annoying hissing sound coming from the toilet. For a moment, I thought it was a snake. I then approached the bathroom and yeah, it was a toilet, of course. I closed the toilet tap, the water that was coming in stopped flowing, and it was very clear that it's this toilet that's causing the sound. But why didn't it stop automatically, I asked myself. Now, considering my grandparents' financial constraints, getting a plumber was not an option. I then had to apply my mind. I did some online research and offline research. I conducted a leak detection test, and I found out that we had a leaking toilet. And basically, toilets inevitably leak. They waste anything between 30 to 700 liters of water per day. That's equivalent to 7 bathtubs full of water. Now, this was also adding to my grandmother's water bill. So I then started sketching a rough solution of how this problem can be solved. To my surprise, it was an invention. There I was with an invention. I then thought I should go to the various state entities to help them save water because we have a crisis. To my surprise, I was tossed from pillar to post, trying to mobilize resources to build my innovation. To this extent, I was eventually interviewed on a national radio station. I got calls as far as my neighboring country who wanted the product. And that's when I noticed that, wow, not only can this be my contribution to society, but hey, this could be a business. I studied business after all, right? So to this extent, I then started my company, WHC, in my grandmother's garage. Over the years, we've mobilized resources, created jobs for the youth, saved megaliters of water, and as they say, the rest is history. So today I'm here with the Global Water Partnership Southern Africa. I'm advocating for SAYWIN. So SAYWIN is a program that we're running in GWPSA. It stands for SADC Youth Water Energy Seafood Nexus Innovation Network. So we call it SAWIN for short. So this program is basically initiated to empower the youth to innovate, create jobs, and contribute to society, especially in the countries where they are, so that we enhance the economic situation of the SADC region with bankable projects. So we are moving the youth from advocates to influencers. Thank you very much. I hope I did justice to your question.
Thank you, Paseka. That was quite a story, and it also goes to show that when you have a problem, that problem is also an opportunity for you to make a difference, make change, and even, as you said, create your own job, your own space in society, which is something that a lot of young people are actually struggling with, how to find a job and how to place themselves in society. And you also mentioned how you facilitated the launch of the SADC Youth, forming SAWIN, and how it has influenced the region. So you've identified several different pathways for youth. So maybe you could tell me what are some of the roles you think young people may play, especially particularly in water? For say, like you said, you come from a commerce background, which was nothing to do with water. So how would you say there are different roles for young people, even if they don't have a water background?
Okay, well, besides the skills and the educational aspects of how to play a part in the sector, I think there are four main roles that we, the youth, can play. The first is being an observer, then assistant, then initiator, and fourthly, an implementer. So basically, we need to observe the good and the bad practices within the water resource management space. Secondly, we need to assist by participating in the current activities that are already in place. Thirdly, we need to initiate new methodologies in collaboration with existing practices. And last but not least, we need to innovate and implement the new methodologies that are more efficient and to the existing water resource management. So that's the four key roles that I believe we need to play as the youth.
And I see those four roles that you've identified, you've actually kind of put yourself in all those four roles. Like you've moved from the different ones to the innovator and implementer as well. But can you explain or maybe share with us some of your experiences, especially bringing together the SADC youth, some of the challenges that you've experienced as well? So yeah, what are some of the challenges in implementing or being part of these roles have you experienced?
Yeah, sure. I have experienced a plethora of challenges. I don't think we have enough time for the challenges. Okay, I'll try to just touch on a few, right?
I understand.
So, first and foremost, I was misunderstood most of the time. I mean, I started off with nothing, right? And I had this dream, and I was thought of being crazy. By the way, some still think I'm crazy, but that's a story for another day. So moving right along. So what I started doing was that I started building my demonstrators with composite material that I would find within my grandmother's yard. And then from the demonstrators, whenever I was before an audience, I could, show them what I mean. And that created an aha moment. So basically, I had a vision, but people believe in what they see. So they believe in sight and something tangible. And that taught me a lesson that I should stop seeking to be understood and start seeking to understand my audience. So this is a vital lesson that I would also dedicate to the youth, that we need to understand that it is not what we say, but rather how we say whatever we say that will determine the outcomes and the verdict of the envisaged benefactors. Another challenge was that obviously this is an innovation, so it's challenging the status quo. So in my experience, I make it sound as if this was an overnight success, but lo and behold, this actually took over 10 years for those who don't know. So this does take time, and the youth need to understand that I'm not saying that all the initiatives will take that long. However, they do take time, and we need to be proactive, because if you are reluctant and despondent, you will not really make an impact. People are naturally protective of their comfort zone. And as the saying goes, why fix what isn't broken? So if you're coming with something new, people are naturally going to resist you. So you need to be persistent in your approach to that extent. So mobilizing resources was obviously a big challenge for me. In its own, I would manage to just raise just enough money to accomplish a milestone, yet had a mile to go to my actual destination. So it's like I just had enough petrol to the next petrol station, but not the entire destination. So such is the nature with the youth as well. We need to understand that we need to make the best of what we have, so that we can be trusted with what we have for much more. It is also said that be faithful with the little, and then the plenty will be given unto you. And that has been my experience. The more I would accomplish one milestone after another, I gained momentum. Momentum brought along progress, progress, recognition, recognition, success. And so the story continues. So we need to understand that this journey is not for the faint-hearted. Some of the things that I've learned is that this is also about trial and error. Okay, so the youth need to accept that they will fail along the journey. Look, you can prepare as much as you can, but look, we have situations like Corona now, right? So the COVID.
Yeah.
Who thought COVID would come into the picture? All plans are now distorted. So clearly, some factors are beyond our control. But we need to understand that the word fail is actually an acronym, at least from my perspective. FAIL. It's first attempt in learning. So we need to keep learning. I mean, I had to do over 50 iterations of my innovation, and each innovation iteration came at a cost. So I've felt the pain, trust you me, but I had to keep on keeping on. To this day, my engineers are still busy with some research and development from our past learnings in order to introduce new innovation. So it's all working to our favor. So the same applies to the youth. We need to find a way to deal with the frustration and to accept the constructive criticism, because if it doesn't kill you, it can only build you. Those are just some of the challenges.
Yeah, I know that list could go. That list could go on forever. But you identified some things that I really, really liked. One was trust, and also to accept constructive criticism, and failure as well. But one of the things I really like to point out as well is the perception of youth as when they want to do something. Sometimes youth or being young is almost perceived as a disadvantage, and in some cases it could be an advantage. Most people think that young people are only good for social media, advocacy, protesting in the streets, holding up placards. But there are a lot of skills young people can bring to the table. Can you tell me what some of these skills are that can actually be used to motivate decision makers and help young people influence policy decisions?
Well, Rianna, I am of the opinion that water is not a sector, but a connector of sectors. So this means that there are sorted skills within the value chain of water. And we as the youth need to be strategic about which skills we can identify ourselves with, we can harness, and then position ourselves in the value chain in a way that we add value to the decision makers so that they can take us seriously, of course. So in my situation, as you've identified, I am solution oriented. I have a commerce background. So I matched the two to create water jobs, which in retrospect is vital to the decision makers because they need to manage water and they need to create jobs for the youth. So this is how you identify your skills, harness them, and then position them for the leaders to take you serious. Another thing is that, look, there's a plethora of skills. I could go on and on. We have the technical skills that range from hydrologists, IWRM specialists, water and wastewater specialists, civil engineers, and so forth. And then we have the softer skills, which are also required for the preservation of water. This includes your policy and governance, your leadership and management, the economics and the politics. So these skills all play a role in the value chain of ensuring a water secure world. So the youth need to identify, harness, and position.
You've articulated that really well. And I know we're kind of coming close to the end, and I want to also leave some time for questions. But we have like one more question moving forward. And you've actually, so far in our conversation, you've identified a really nice pathway that a young person can take to become a leader in their society, moving from, you know, the skills that they have to make, the roles that they play. But then, I mean, you could be, as you said, you've been in this youth leadership role for a long time, but there would come a time when young people are no longer in the bracket of youth, and they still want to be advocates, they still want to lobby, but sometimes it's very difficult, especially in the working space. How do you think a young person can transition from being looked at as a young person, but then move on to be included in more high-level conversations that could create opportunities for their community and country?
Yeah, well, Rianna, first and foremost, I think you should remain young at heart. Okay? It is said that age is nothing but a number, sister.
That's true. That is true.
On a serious note, maybe GWP should create what we call a senior youth bracket for those who are facing out. You know, it's. I just think that it's very important to consider the fact that you should not be restricted by your age to pursue your desire to contribute to your community and country. So first and foremost, you need to understand that this desire to contribute is not restricted by age. Once you get that through, whichever age you're in, yes, you're now youth, you start identifying those initiatives that resonate with your passion, the type of initiative that you can still contribute towards beyond the youth bracket. And once you are out of the youth bracket, or rather, while you're still within the youth bracket, it's important to then also identify opportunities that avail themselves for you to grow in the space, for you to optimize on your passion and optimize on the influence. Because over the years, as a youth candidate or youth individual, you are often seen advocating, as you put it, social media, placards, strikes, and so forth. So now you need to start transitioning. As mature as you would be from your teens to your 20s, you also need to show the leadership in place that you are bound to take more responsibility within the space. And should you exit the bracket, also start contributing towards other initiatives that are not age restrictive. And if they are age restrictive, hey, you could always start your own, hey? There are more than enough people out there who would like to help somebody who is doing good within the space. So those are some of the things that I think the youth should look into. And I would also encourage entities to look into this as well. By the way, I highly commend entities that embrace the youth, because entities that embrace the youth also understand that if they get them young, the possibilities are endless. The entities that encourage the youth in their structures, they stand a better chance of retaining the youth, especially if the entity has great ethos, team spirit, good leadership, and opportunities of growth. You will notice that the youth do not really stay in an entity because of the great remuneration. But yes, remuneration plays a part, don't get me wrong. they say money is not the most important thing, but it ranks up there with oxygen.
Yeah,
So
that
yes,
helps.
you
That helps.
need to be remunerated. Okay,
Yes.
but
Yes. Know
besides
your worth. Know your worth.
yeah, sorry, did I interject there, Rianna?
Oh no, sorry. I just said you have to always know your worth. So yeah. So especially when it comes to remuneration. So
Absolutely. So we need to know our worth. As much as we are youth, we are also contributing to the progress of that organization, and we need to be appreciated accordingly as any other staff member wants to be acknowledged and appreciated. So entities that retain the youth, they also stimulate new methodologies which will sustain the entity. They would stand a chance to empower the youth, specifically empowerment with meaningful roles, not your typical copying, pasting, making coffee. As you would know, Rihanna, we've all been through that, and
yeah.
we don't like that. It's not necessary. I mean, we are educated, right? We are young professionals. So let us help to implement the succession plan. And entities that do this will implement a very vibrant succession plan, retaining institutional memory for the next decade, if not century. So that's what I believe is required.
Paseka, as you know, we could have conversations on this for hours on end because there's a lot to talk about. You had a lot of great points looking at the different things that an organization can do, ensuring that opportunities are met for young people to give them the opportunity to execute and showcase their skills. I think that's very important that you said, but also young people, I think, should also position themselves in places where they could have this growth and be bold and take the initiative to put themselves in the limelight and show the work that they can do. Because sometimes I know it could be very difficult. I can speak from experience. It could be very difficult to move from maybe an internship or a fellowship where you're doing basic tasks to actually level up and do more high level work. But sometimes it takes an inner strength in a young person to be bold and take initiative. So sometimes it's on the young person as well as the organization themselves. So it's a two-way street. And you spoke about succession planning, and I think that's something that we really have to take to heart. That we have to ensure that young people are mentored properly as well, so they could also take over the tasks and the roles that are being placed right now. So I'm just gonna open it up now to if Monica, you could check. Thank you, Paseka, for all your discussions. Really good. But we'd like to hear from our Facebook viewers if there are any questions for Paseka. So I'll go to Monica, who has been, checking out that feed. So yeah.
Thank you, Rianna. Thank you, Paseka. As Rianna said, we could probably go on forever speaking about youth. We get a lot of comments, very appreciative in the comments field, saying, and they agree with the senior youth club and so forth. And we have one question for you, Paseka. It's saying from Patricio, saying, we know the future of work is shaping the present for young water entrepreneurs. Among the essential skills Paseka mentioned, which one would you consider to be the key one young people should build?
Okay, so Monica, am I responding to that question, or are we waiting for a list of questions?
No, please respond, and I will not answer. I will not ask all the questions. I will pick some, and then Paseka and Rianna will go into the comments field and reply to each one of them. But I will just highlight a few here. So please respond, Paseka.
Whoa, that's a very good question, hey? And yeah, I'd like to apply my mind a bit on it, but because I'm on the spot, I would like to focus on one single value that has worked to my favor, and that is to know thyself. Okay, this might not be a skill on its own, but the mere fact that I had self-knowledge, I knew my weaknesses, I knew my strengths. I knew my support system. I knew my shortcoming. I knew what I have and what I do not. And the sad part is at times I didn't know what I didn't know. So I needed to surround myself with mentors and other people. However, the mere fact that I knew myself as an individual, I could always stretch myself to the next point, and I could learn something new. I had no limitations as far as learning, because you never stop learning as an individual. I had institutional knowledge, yes, but I kept learning from books and other people in order to know myself better. So if I can call it a skill, it can work to your favor just by knowing yourself a bit better, and obviously working from that as a foundation. I hope that does justice to the question. Otherwise, there are other skills
Yeah.
I can tap into.
Thank you, Paseka. And then we have another question from a colleague in South Asia who's saying, I think I can ask Rianna to answer this. Isn't it better to request for a special quota for youth, similarly to gender quota in decision-making platforms? I know this is a big question, but any reflections you have on this?
This could be a loaded question as well. But I definitely think they should have a youth representative on different decision making, but not just a representative. It should have a young person in these spaces who have the skills, the qualifications, and experience. Because the worst thing is to give or to have representation by youth just to say that you have a representative by youth. And so that, I think that's the way, to make sure that the representative that you have, or the quota, the persons who are there to represent this group of persons, has the quality, has the skills and experience necessary to give a proper answer. So I think that's more important, the quality, but yes, it should have some representation or quota included. But we're aiming for that. I know within GWP, we have been, we have a person now for in our steering committee who's a young person, soon to be announced. And so GWP is aiming to walk the talk. So we're not just looking at representing young people, we are including them into our policy and decision making. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. And then we have the last question. No, maybe next to last question. So we have from our colleague in the Caribbean saying, so what practical advice do either of you have on how young people who are passionate about water and the environment should position themselves to be in decision-making processes or be involved in water governance?
Wow.
They are big questions.
Yeah, because this also depends on your cultural space, because every country, every region is different. So you have to understand where you come from and what opportunities there are. I know from like my position, from coming from the Caribbean, it can be sometimes very difficult. I started off in advocacy and building my reputation, building my skills base, and then you end up being known for your opinion and known for taking stance on certain things. Again, it's representing yourself and staying good to high standards. As Paseka identified before, know thyself and stick to your standards and your beliefs. And sometimes people come to you for advice, because if you keep your standards to high levels, opportunities come to you to actually come to give yourself and put yourself in that position to give advice and include yourself in the governance process. Again, I will highly invest into networking, going to different lectures, talks where the decision makers are, where you have an opportunity to interact and be active in your governance process. So, but again, have an understanding of your own systems, be bold with it, and keep your high standards and network. Paseka, Yeah.
And keep your passion, I think, is very
Yeah, you have to keep, that is part of it, but I always believe that passion is just some part of it. There's a lot of work involved. I mean, passion could only take you so far, but you have to do a lot of work. It is a lot of work. As Paseka said, it's not for the faint-hearted.
Paseka, any word on this?
Yeah, I think, look, Rianna said a mouthful. She really captured the gist of that question, hey? Well done, Rianna. And look, to this extent, I can only say we should also have a learning approach and a servanthood approach. Maybe that's the wrong term to use, but basically we need to show the current leadership that we want to work, okay? We are not opposing them. We are not against them. We are not challenging them. We are just availing ourselves to assist them in what they're doing. And time and again would like to suggest how we think it could be done better. So we need to remember that statement of it's not what you say, it's rather how you say it. We have certain leaders who actually need assistance, you know. However, they've been doing it so long and so good that they're not really sure that anyone else can do it better than them or can do what they do. And that's not to say that they are proud of that statement. It's just that they're passionate about what they do, and they're really seeking the right people to entrust such responsibilities to. So if we avail ourselves and our approach is right, we can slowly but surely move in the position of water resource management authoritativeship, from advocates to influencers, and then eventually we will be given our roles that are due to us then, because we have earned them rather than demanding them. So that's just to add on to everything that Rianna has mentioned, which actually has a lot of volume and carries water.
Super, thank you. We're coming to a close of this Facebook Live, but since it's International Youth Day today, so I just want you to finish off, both of you, with one-liner. What is your call to action? What is your message today?
You can go
Ladies
first.
first.
Oh, wow. Call to action. I think I would say for young people, don't lose hope. You are stronger than you know. And really, I have utilized your networks and keep your passion moving forward. But I don't know, as Paseka said, the learning, you have to keep learning and improving your education and your positioning to influence. I don't know, Paseka.
Good. That was one-liner, so that's fine.
Yeah, Paseka,
Yes, Paseka.
you're the wordsmith here. So, yeah.
Well, Rianna, no, you're doing well. Doing well. Basically, as a one-liner, I'd say, where there's a will, there's a way. We need to keep on keeping on. Where there's a will, there's a way. That has been my ethos throughout my journey. I literally started off with less than $100, just to be precise, in my grandmother's garage. But with my vision, with my persistence, with the people I spoke to, I just came across new avenues. And it was one of the famous innovators that said, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. So even in my challenges, even in the trials and tribulations, when I look back, they all played a part to where I am and where I want to go. So where there's a will, there's a way. Just keep on keeping on. It's possible.
Thank you, and that's a great
I like that.
message. Thank you very much. So to all Facebook viewers, please go into the comments fields. As I said, Rianna and Paseka will go in there and answer your questions. But thank you very much for today's Facebook Live, and happy International Youth Day to all of you. Thank you. We will close here.